You Think You Know New Jersey, the State That Quietly Changed the World, by David Russo. Chapter 1, The Exit Question. What exit? In New Jersey, that question has never really been about directions. It's a shorthand, a social coordinate, a way of asking where you come from without asking where you come from. Because an exit tells people more than a town name ever could. It hints at which stretch of highway raised you, which diners you know by heart, which shortcuts you learned before you were old enough to drive. It tells people what you understand instinctively, how traffic flows, how conversations move, how close things really are. I've heard this question asked in New Jersey my entire life. Sometimes as a joke, sometimes as a challenge, sometimes as a test to see if you're local or just passing through. And passing through is the key. New Jersey is a state the country learned to experience at speed. From above, from bridges, from trains, from the left lane. It became something people crossed rather than entered, observed rather than understood. Over time, that perspective hardened into caricature. A place reduced to exits, smokestacks, refineries, and punchlines delivered before the toll booth. But exits only tell you where you leave the road. They don't tell you what exists beneath it. New Jersey's rail story has never lived on the surface. It lives underneath, layered, engineered, interconnected. Like the utilities buried below its highways, the state's most important contributions are invisible by design. They work so well that no one stops to notice them. This is a place shaped by compression, small enough to be overlooked, dense enough to matter, forced to define itself quickly because no one ever gave it much time. So New Jersey adapted. It learned how to speak directly, how to build things that last, how to contribute without needing applause, how to absorb pressure and convert it into output. This audiobook isn't here to convince anyone to like New Jersey. It doesn't need defending. It's here to map what's already there, to slow down where others sped up, to look beneath what people thought they already knew. Because once you stop asking, what exit, and start asking what was built between them, you begin to see the state differently. Not as a place you pass through, but as a place that quietly changed the world and kept going. Chapter 2, The Invention Factory. New Jersey didn't just invent things. It invented the process of invention. Before New Jersey, breakthroughs were treated like lightning strikes. Rare, unpredictable, dependent on genius and luck. A lone thinker, a sudden spark, a miracle moment. New Jersey replaced that idea with something far more dangerous. A system. In Menlo Park, Thomas Edison built what had never existed before, the world's first industrial research laboratory. Not a workshop, not a study, a machine for ideas. Here, invention wasn't romantic. It was methodical. Teams tested variations, documented failures, refined designs, and tried again. Every mistake was logged, every outcome measured. Edison understood something most people still resist. Progress isn't about avoiding failure. It's about organizing it. I have not failed, he famously said. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That wasn't bravado. It was process thinking. Menlo Park turned creativity into infrastructure. Knowledge became cumulative. Discovery became repeatable. Innovation stopped being an accident and started becoming an industry. And once that door opened, New Jersey never closed it. Decades later, Bell Labs picked up the blueprint and expanded it. Quietly, relentlessly. Inside unassuming buildings across the state, researchers weren't chasing headlines. They were solving fundamentals. How information moves, how signals behave, how matter can be persuaded to compute. The transistor, the laser, information theory. Breakthroughs so foundational that they eventually disappeared into daily life. You don't think about them when you make a phone call, when you stream music, when data moves invisibly across continents in milliseconds. That's the point. New Jersey's signature contribution isn't flash. It's reliability. Build it so well that no one notices it anymore. The lab notes become standards. The prototypes become systems. The experiments become expectations. This way of thinking spread outward, from telecommunications to pharmaceuticals, from materials science to medicine. Research parks replaced farmland. Campuses grew where factories once stood. The state became a latticework of labs, testing facilities, and quiet buildings where ideas were pressure tested before being released into the world. And what's striking isn't just what was invented here. It's how. New Jersey institutionalized patience. It rewarded documentation. It respected iteration. It understood that progress rarely arrives fully formed. It's assembled piece by piece, often by people whose names never leave the building. That mindset shaped the culture beyond science. People here learn early that results matter more than recognition. That if something works, it doesn't need an introduction. That the strongest systems are the ones you stop thinking about entirely. Like the electrical grid, like clean water, like the internet backbone humming beneath your feet. New Jersey became very good at building the invisible. And there's a reason for that. When you're small, you don't get to waste effort. When you're overlooked, you learn to make impact undeniable. When the world isn't watching closely, you're free to focus on what actually works. This is not a state that celebrates the eureka moment. It celebrates the version that holds up after the 9,999th test. So when people ask what New Jersey has contributed, they often miss the answer because they're standing on it, using it, benefiting from it, without ever needing to know its name. That's the invention factory. Not a place that produces marvels for display, but a state that taught the world how to build the future and then let it disappear into everything that followed. Chapter 3. The Sound of New Jersey. Every place has music. New Jersey has voice. Not polish, not distance. Voice, the kind that carries weight because it comes from somewhere crowded, pressured, and real. The kind that doesn't float above life, but moves straight through it. This is a state where people grow up close enough to hear one another. Apartments stacked, streets layered, radios bleeding through walls, church choirs down the block, car speakers rattling at red lights. You learn early how to be heard without shouting, and how to mean what you say when you finally do. That closeness shaped the sound. Frank Sinatra didn't just sing confidence. He taught the world how it feels. Control without stiffness. Swagger without excess. He sounded like someone who knew exactly who he was and didn't need to prove it. Bruce Springsteen took ordinary lives and refused to let them be small. Factory shifts. Boardwalk nights. Cars that meant escape because escape was earned. His music didn't mythologize New Jersey. It documented it, then turned the documentation into anthems. Whitney Houston redefined power. Not loudness. Precision. Every note placed exactly where it belonged. Effortless because the work had already been done. Lauryn Hill changed the architecture of storytelling itself. How rhythm could carry truth. How intelligence and vulnerability could coexist without apology. Different eras. Different genres. One shared trait. They didn't perform distance. They performed proximity. These voices came from density, not isolation. From hearing everything around you and still figuring out how to sound like yourself. From growing up between cities and suburbs, between ambition and reality, between what's expected and what's possible. For me, that closeness was personal. In high school, my science teacher used to casually mention that Bruce Springsteen had once been in his class. Not as a brag, just as a fact woven into the day. Then he'd pivot right back to the lesson, like that proximity to history was normal. Because in New Jersey, it is. The extraordinary doesn't announce itself. It sits next to you. It shares classrooms. It becomes a story told without ceremony. That's the sound of the state. New Jersey doesn't polish emotion. It projects it. There's grit in the delivery, honesty in the phrasing, a refusal to soften edges for comfort. Even when the music is beautiful, there's weight behind it, lived experience, compressed and released through sound. Like vibrations traveling through stone, Jersey music carries because it has density behind it. It doesn't drift. It lands. And once it lands, it stays. These voices didn't just reflect the culture, they reshaped it. They gave language to confidence, struggle, power, contradiction. They proved that authenticity wasn't regional, it was universal. People hear the music and think they're hearing personality. They're hearing environment. A place where emotion isn't curated, where stories are told straight, where you learn that if you're going to speak, you might as well mean it. That's why the sound endures. Not because New Jersey demands attention, but because when its voice enters the room, it doesn't need to ask for it. Chapter 4. Down the Shore. You don't go to the shore. You go down the shore. That phrasing matters. It tells you this isn't a vacation, it's a return. A movement passed down through families, repeated so often it becomes instinct. The same weeks, the same exits, the same roads memorized before you're old enough to read the signs. In New Jersey, the shore isn't an escape from life. It's an extension of it. Generations come back to the same boardwalks, the same rental houses, the same stretches of sand where memories stack on top of one another. Parents point to spots where they once stood as kids. Grandparents tell stories that blur slightly with time but never disappear. The rituals stay consistent. Morning coffee on the deck, salt air through screen doors, the sound of gulls mixed with traffic, boardwalk lights warming on as the sun drops into the water. I remember when I was a child, my parents would take me down to the shore, letting me run along the sand while the waves chased my toes. Now, I take my own children, pointing out the same little nooks where I once played, watching the ritual repeat itself. But beneath the familiarity, something older is always happening. Each year, along these same beaches, horseshoe crabs rise from the ocean in quiet numbers. Ancient creatures, unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, following cycles that predate every boardwalk, every lighthouse, every house with a weekly rental sign. Their blue blood, used to test medical equipment and vaccines, protects modern medicine across the globe. Without it, surgeries pause, treatments slow, lives wait. Since writing this audiobook, I've remembered the hermit crabs I once collected at the shore, bringing them home to my bedroom. They had famous names, Hulk, Godzilla, and others, and it was incredible to have them so close, right next to my bed. Even as they crawled across the pebbles in their tiny home, I was able to sleep, amazed by how something so small could feel so alive and enduring. Most people walking the shoreline never notice. The crabs don't evolve for attention. They endure. That contrast defines New Jersey's coast. Above the sand, noise, motion, tradition. Below it, systems older than memory, continuing their work without interruption. The shore teaches this lesson gently but clearly. Importance doesn't always look important. What sustains life rarely asks to be seen. New Jersey doesn't dramatize its role here. It doesn't build monuments to the process. It manages it, protects it, balances tourism with preservation, commerce with responsibility. Even the language reflects that restraint. You don't vacation down the shore. You go back, because this place holds continuity in a state defined by movement. Highways and rail lines slice through New Jersey, carrying millions past one another every day. The shore slows that motion just enough to remind people where they came from. It's not pristine. It's not curated. It's lived in. Weathered boardwalk planks, faded signs, salt-worn railings, all of it layered with time. And that's the point. New Jersey's shoreline isn't trying to impress you. It's doing what it has always done, absorbing crowds, sustaining ecosystems, holding memories without needing to display them. When the season ends and the beach is empty, the work continues. Tides shift. Life cycles repeat. The coast resets, patient and exact. Down the shore, you learn what the state has always known. Showing up matters more than standing out. And endurance, quiet, ancient, reliable, is its own kind of legacy. Chapter 5. The Jersey Mindset. There's a Jersey way of doing things. It's a phrase you hear in passing, often as a shrug, sometimes as a warning. But it isn't just a style. It's a mindset, a methodology, a way of approaching life that's been honed over centuries. Direct, defensive when necessary, honest without embellishment, efficient without ceremony. New Jersey is a state that learned early. Spectacle is a luxury you can't afford when you're small, crowded, and constantly watched. Survival depends on knowing what matters, what can wait, and what cannot. Think of the eastern box turtle. Slow, careful, protective, a creature built to last. New Jersey mirrors that instinct. It knows when to retreat, when to conserve, and when to push forward, no matter how many obstacles appear in its path. This mindset emerges everywhere. In the factories that became labs, in the boardwalks that survived storms, in the highways that carry millions past mountains and rivers, and in the cities that refuse to vanish after industries left. Every inch of the state tells the same story. Resilience is built, not inherited. Economics, culture, environment. New Jersey has been tested and reshaped by all of it. From industrial booms to post-industrial decline, from environmental disasters to demographic shifts, the state has learned to adapt quickly, without waiting for outside recognition. Reinvention isn't occasional here. It's embedded in the DNA. This approach also shapes how people live. Decisions are practical, grounded, and rooted in experience. There's little tolerance for pretense. What works matters more than what looks good. If a bridge falls, it's repaired. If an idea fails, it's tested differently. If a neighborhood suffers, it evolves. And yet, there's ambition here too. New Jersey doesn't stop at survival. It asks the next question, what will it take? Not can it be done, but how can it be done better, faster, more reliably? That's the difference. Many places dream. New Jersey executes. It's also why the state can be misunderstood. Outsiders often perceive toughness as hostility, directness as abrasiveness. But in reality, it's protection. A layer of armor formed over centuries of exposure, dense population, industrial pressure, and the constant rush of people passing through. It's defensive, yes, but deeply intelligent. Careful, strategic. This mindset shapes culture, business, politics, and even everyday interaction. People grow up learning how to navigate complexity. They learn compromise and confrontation in equal measure. They measure, analyze, and adjust. They respect effort over flash. It's a mindset that doesn't require applause. That's why so much of New Jersey's influence is invisible but undeniable. Like the labs, the infrastructure, the underground networks. It's effective first, noticeable later, if ever. New Jersey doesn't ask if something is possible. It asks what it will take, then begins assembling the pieces. And when it succeeds, the state keeps moving. No fanfare, no pause, no unnecessary explanation. This is the Jersey way, practical, persistent, and precise. It's a mindset that has shaped everything from innovation to music, from cities to shorelines. It's quietly relentless, and it's the reason New Jersey always finds a way, long after others would have given up. Chapter 6: Cities that Refuse to Disappear. Newark, Paterson, Camden, Jersey City, Atlantic City. These are not cities designed for postcards. They were built to work, to house industry, accommodate transportation, and manage human density. Beauty was a luxury, function was essential. And over time, that functional design faced repeated tests, factories closing, shipping routes rerouted, economic tides rising and falling. And yet, these cities refused to vanish. When industries left, the buildings didn't crumble entirely, they adapted. Steel factories became research labs. Warehouses became apartments. Old rail lines carried new forms of commerce. Streets once clogged with horses and trolleys learned to support buses, cars, and pedestrians in a seamless rhythm. Resilience became routine. Like the bald eagle, which nearly disappeared from New Jersey skies in the 20th century, these cities prove that survival doesn't require beauty or recognition. It requires adaptation. Survival is not an event. It's a process, repeated every day. And in New Jersey, that process became ingrained. People who live in these cities understand something outsiders often miss. Endurance is structural. It's embedded in the streets, the buildings, the very layout of neighborhoods. You can see it in the repurposed factories, the thriving cultural hubs in former industrial zones, the small businesses tucked into unexpected corners. Every reinvention is quiet, deliberate, and effective. Take Newark. Once dominated by manufacturing, it reinvented itself through education, arts, and technology. Paterson, a cradle of the silk industry, pivoted to a mix of small business and cultural preservation. Camden, which faced near collapse, began experimenting with urban renewal and partnerships that reimagined public space. Jersey City leveraged proximity to Manhattan, blending old shipping and manufacturing roots with finance, tech, and art. Atlantic City, famous for its boardwalk and casinos, continues to experiment with tourism, entertainment, and events to sustain its economy. These cities carry scars. They carry the weight of economic shifts, social tension, and environmental pressure. But that weight hasn't broken them. It has shaped them. It has taught them how to survive, evolve, and find opportunity where others might only see decline. There's a lesson in their persistence. Survival doesn't need romance. It needs attention, strategy, and the willingness to keep moving when the world assumes you've stopped. In New Jersey, this lesson is learned early. Children grow up understanding that cities are living organisms. They shift, they recover, they absorb shocks, and they never fully die. And adults who remain understand that endurance is active, not passive. Buildings, streets, communities, These all require care, adjustment, and sometimes reinvention to continue existing. Resilience here isn't flashy. There's no grand narrative. There are no sweeping declarations of revival. There is simply the ongoing work of adapting to what comes next. That work extends beyond humans. Public parks, waterways, and infrastructure all bend and flex under pressure. The same logic that helps a city survive economic collapse helps it survive storms, floods, and the relentless changes of climate and population. New Jersey cities are a blueprint of survival, practical, persistent, and profoundly intelligent. They don't wait for permission to exist. They don't apologize for who they are. They find a way to function and then quietly thrive. In these cities, you see the core of the Jersey mindset: adaptation as instinct, persistence as culture, resilience as default. And in that persistence, there's a subtle, powerful lesson. What survives in New Jersey isn't always pretty, but it endures. Chapter 7: Brains per Square Mile. New Jersey consistently ranks among the most educated and most diverse states in the country. At first glance, that might seem like a statistic, a number on a report card. But in reality, it's a defining feature of how the state functions. Here, intelligence is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Space is limited. Land is expensive. Industries, cities, and communities are packed close together. In such density, people don't have the option to coast. They can't operate in isolation. Collaboration isn't a choice. It's built into the rhythm of daily life. This density drives both creativity and discipline. You see it in neighborhoods where neighbors exchange ideas over fences, where children grow up seeing multiple careers within a few blocks, where schools, libraries, and cultural centers are compressed into walkable clusters. Pressure is constant, but so is opportunity. People here don't just think creatively. They think structurally. They learn to measure, test, document, and optimize. Innovation is rarely a flash of genius. It's a carefully calculated process, repeated, recorded, and refined. In science labs, in small businesses, in schools, and in kitchens where family recipes are perfected across generations, the approach is the same. Systems over luck, results over flair, function over form. From above, New Jersey can look crowded. Congested highways, packed trains, dense cities, suburbs stitched tightly together. But underneath, there's organization. There's a method to the seeming chaos. Intellectual pressure generates efficiency, resilience, and adaptation. People here are constantly negotiating complexity, social, economic, environmental, because that's the state's natural condition. You either learn to navigate it or you get left behind. This environment produces surprising outcomes. Startups flourish, research labs multiply, schools achieve results that surprise outsiders, and cultural contributions explode in frequency and depth. New Jersey consistently punches above its weight because brains, educated, practical, and applied, are everywhere. It also produces a particular kind of thinking, one that combines innovation with practicality. People here don't just imagine the new. They build it. They engineer it. They test it. And then they make sure it works, not just in theory, but in daily life. And that thinking spreads beyond the labs and offices. It becomes part of the state's identity. Political strategy, public infrastructure, arts, music, all are influenced by the same principle. Plan thoroughly, act decisively, refine constantly. Even the state's reputation reflects this. Outsiders may focus on highways, exits, or beaches, but the real strength is invisible. It's embedded in the minds of people who grew up here, who learned to operate in high-pressure environments, who became accustomed to density and diversity and turned both into advantages. Brains per square mile. That's New Jersey's quiet signature. It isn't loud. It isn't designed to be noticed. But it is undeniable. In a world that often equates success with size, New Jersey proves that intelligence, structure, and application can matter far more. The state may be small geographically, but intellectually, it is immense. And this intelligence isn't theoretical. It's practical, applied, tested, measured, documented, iterated. In short, it's exactly the kind of thinking that changes the world quietly, steadily, and completely. From above, it looks crowded. Underneath, it's organized. And that organization, rooted in intellect, density, and necessity, is what allows New Jersey to support innovation, culture, and resilience in ways most states can only admire. Chapter 8. Beneath the Surface. Most people don't realize New Jersey has caves. Not the tourist kind with lights, railings, and guided tours. Not places you visit for Instagram photos. Real caves, cold, narrow, unmarked, and largely invisible unless you know where to look. I met someone who maps them. A person who spends hours underground, not for thrill, not for fame, but for responsibility. He documents what exists beneath the state. Passages, airflow, water paths, rock formations, bat colonies. He records where tunnels continue beyond what's been explored and where systems stop abruptly. Every detail matters. Every measurement matters. Some of these caves are known but unfinished. Others are entirely undiscovered. Their entrances are logged, but the systems themselves are still unfolding, slowly revealing secrets that have existed for thousands, even millions, of years. While millions of people move across New Jersey every day, on highways, trains, or boardwalks, entire networks of underground life, history, and infrastructure continue quietly beneath them. Water flows, rock shifts, air circulates. Bats rest, insects scuttle, and the state's geology slowly but persistently transforms. This is an adventure. It's responsibility. New Jersey has always worked this way. On the surface, it seems ordinary, sometimes overlooked, sometimes even joked about. Below it, the state is exacting, meticulous, and layered. It builds systems, documents them, and preserves them, often without anyone outside the network noticing. This extends beyond caves. Think about the utilities beneath the highways, the sewer lines, the tunnels, the hidden research labs, the infrastructure that carries more than 9 million residents safely through daily life. The same principle applies. Meticulous planning, careful mapping, invisible labor. Work so well done that its presence is taken for granted. And the caves are a reminder that even the invisible has structure, logic, and endurance. They are a state's memory written in stone. Each passage tells a story, where water carved channels, where rock resisted erosion, where human hands altered paths without claiming ownership. Above ground, people ask, what exit? Below ground, the work continues quietly, methodically, and precisely. In a way, New Jersey's identity has always mirrored its underground networks. Layered, complex, often overlooked, essential. The things that matter most are frequently hidden. And the people who preserve, innovate, and navigate these hidden systems know that impact doesn't need recognition. It needs consistency. It needs care. It needs someone willing to track, document, and safeguard it. New Jersey's caves, tunnels, and underground systems reflect a philosophy. The state operates not for applause, but for endurance. It anticipates the future. It measures, tests, and maps. And it trusts that good systems, like good people, will continue to function quietly, long after the world above has moved on. This is why New Jersey is hard to define at a glance. You can't capture it from the highway. You can't reduce it to a single story or statistic. What truly matters often exists where most people never think to look, beneath the surface. And once you understand that, you begin to see the state differently. Not as a collection of towns, highways, and exits, but as a network of hidden systems, layered intelligence, and resilience built to last. New Jersey doesn't need attention. It needs precision. And underneath, it delivers. Chapter 9. New Jersey versus everyone else. Other states rely on size. Some rely on spectacle. Mountains, deserts, beaches, endless skies. These places impress with scale. They stretch across hundreds of miles and demand attention simply by existing. New Jersey does something different. It relies on density of impact. In a small geographic space, the state concentrates innovation, culture, education, and infrastructure so tightly that influence multiplies silently but exponentially. Every square mile carries layers of significance: a lab, a factory, a city, a highway, a boardwalk, a school, a community, all stacked and interwoven. You don't always notice it from the surface, but it's there, measurable and undeniable. People often mistake New Jersey's defensiveness for insecurity. Outsiders joke about highways, traffic, or tolls. They focus on the glare of urban density and miss what's inside it. In reality, the defensiveness is closer to memory. This is a state that has given the world foundations it no longer remembers. The transistor, the laser, essential pharmaceuticals, highways that carry millions, research protocols still guiding global science, all created or refined here. And because the world benefits quietly, New Jersey learned early, protect what matters, whether anyone is watching or not. It's why so much of the state's power feels invisible. The things that matter most operate in systems, networks, and processes, not in monuments, banners, or headlines. New Jersey doesn't need validation, it measures results. It doesn't need applause, it builds. The state's cities, labs, universities, and cultural centers are packed with purpose. Knowledge accumulates like sediment, layer upon layer. The population is diverse, educated, and concentrated. The density isn't chaotic, it's structural. People here think in terms of systems, how one idea interacts with another, how one decision affects multiple outcomes, how a single invention can ripple worldwide. New Jersey's influence doesn't come from being big. It comes from being meticulous, from being compact and strategic, from turning pressure into productivity. And that approach shows up everywhere. In its music, its inventions, its cities, its shorelines, its underground systems, and even its attitude. New Jersey doesn't ask if something is possible. It asks what it will take, and then it quietly does it. Other states might boast about scale. New Jersey measures impact. 1 square mile here can outweigh 100 somewhere else. One laboratory can change medicine for the entire world. One song can define a generation. One city can reinvent itself repeatedly and still function. People who live here often underestimate it, because life in New Jersey is constant, immediate, and local. But step back, and the picture becomes clear. In terms of influence per mile, New Jersey is disproportionate, unmatched, and persistent. That's the lesson the state teaches. Size is optional. Strategy is essential. Resilience is non-negotiable. And influence doesn't need to be obvious. It just needs to exist. When you see New Jersey through that lens, everything aligns. The highways, the cities, the factories, the labs, the music, the shore, all of it becomes part of a larger system designed to matter quietly, thoroughly, and enduringly. New Jersey versus everyone else isn't a competition of spectacle. It's a competition of consequence. And in that contest, this small, densely packed state consistently outperforms, not because anyone cheers, but because it simply refuses to stop working. Chapter 10, The Future State. New Jersey is not done yet. That may sound unexpected to those who reduce the state to highway numbers, industrial skylines, or summer boardwalks. But New Jersey has never been defined by what it already completed. Its identity has always been forward-facing, measured, methodical, and persistent. The research centers that once gave the world the transistor are now advancing artificial intelligence and next-generation computing. Coastlines once defined by leisure now double as living laboratories for climate adaptation and environmental science. Across the state, hospitals, universities, and emerging companies are simultaneously advancing biotechnology, renewable energy, medical innovation, and transportation systems. Progress here isn't performative. It's recorded, evaluated, refined, and scaled. This outlook echoes the philosophy behind Menlo Park and later Bell Labs. Innovation isn't luck, it's structure. New Jersey doesn't chase movements after they peak. It constructs the conditions that allow new ones to emerge. The frameworks come first, the global impact follows. Density remains one of the state's quiet strengths. Short distances encourage cooperation. Cultural variety sharpens insight. Competition elevates standards. From an early age, people learn to think in systems, to design solutions that are efficient, repeatable, and durable. The same logic that fueled earlier breakthroughs is now being applied to the problems still ahead. What makes this evolution distinctive is its integration. Innovation in New Jersey is never isolated from daily life. Cultural, technological, environmental, and social systems develop together. Cities, suburbs, research centers, and shore communities function as a single adaptive network, constantly recalibrating. Each element informs the next, accelerating progress in subtle but powerful ways. Transportation offers a clear example. Autonomous mobility, high-speed rail concepts, and sustainable urban design aren't departures from tradition, they're extensions of it. This is the same state that mastered logistics, industrial transport, and infrastructure built for longevity. New Jersey doesn't discard what works. It upgrades the architecture beneath it. Culture evolves the same way. Music, art, and storytelling continue to transform, grounded in history but unconfined by it. Just as figures like Springsteen, Sinatra, Whitney Houston, and Lauryn Hill carried New Jersey's voice into the world, today's creators draw from dense, interconnected environments to shape new forms of expression. So when someone asks, "What exit?" the question goes deeper than geography. It's really about origin, where perspective is formed, how worldview is shaped, and whether you come from a place that doesn't merely occupy space, but actively produces impact. If the answer is New Jersey, then you know the story isn't about surface impressions. It's about durable systems, scalable ideas, and influence that spreads quietly until it becomes essential. The future here isn't hypothetical. It's under construction every day, in classrooms, laboratories, offices, and neighborhoods. Deliberately, accurately, without waiting for approval or recognition. That is the state's lasting signature. Just as it once charted new territory in invention, sound, urban design, and infrastructure, it continues to chart what comes next. Progress in New Jersey isn't announced. It's engineered, tested, refined, and released into the world step by step. Yes, New Jersey is small, dense, often underestimated, but it has never been stagnant. It remains in motion, building, refining, and influencing the future as it always has. And beneath the surface, as ever, it is already ready for what's next, quietly effective, relentlessly prepared, and impossible to replace.